I'm in Gibraltar, a naval stronghold for centuries, and new evidence from these rocky shores suggests that thousands of years after they disappeared from the rest of Europe, the Neanderthals were clinging on here. When Neanderthals lived here, sea levels were up to 100 metres lower, so much of the evidence from that time could be underwater.
Let's go for it now.
A team of specialists is probing the ocean floor, looking for traces of the Gibraltar Neanderthals. We've come to a stop now because we are over the archaeological site. It's about 20 metres below the surface of the sea below us. Divers are all getting ready, and these are divers but also archaeologists, so they're going to be excavating the sea bottom in search of Neanderthals. These divers are up against poor visibility with a limited oxygen supply. Underwater archaeology is always challenging. But Clive Finlayson has already made a series of significant discoveries in the sea caves nearby.
This is where the last Neanderthals made their last stand, if you like, 24,000 years ago. We get the feeling it's the nearest thing to Neanderthal city you're going to find anywhere. We've got fossils, stone tools, animals that they've been butchering, all kinds of evidence, hearths, you know, Neanderthal barbecues, if you like. It's a very, very special site.
They think that Neanderthals may have held on here long after they'd been wiped out in the rest of Europe. But after the Neanderthals finally disappeared from Gibraltar, there was a gap of 5,000 years before we turned up. So it looks as though whatever finally killed Neanderthals off, it wasn't us. What do you think eventually wiped them out?
It may have been a numbers game. There's so few left, as would happen to populations of endangered species today, like the panda or tiger. Just random fluctuations in numbers can bring it down to zero, and there's no recovery from zero. So it could have been that. It could have been disease, inbreeding, a whole range of factors that can affect a small population and knock them over the edge.
I find it very moving to think that one day the last Neanderthal might have been sitting here, staring out to sea, and perhaps waiting for their companions to return. Or maybe he or she knew that they were the last of their tribe or their family, but they can't have known that they were the last of their entire species. So that was the end of the Neanderthals. Or was it? Some scientists believe their descendants are still walking around today. If our ancestors interbred with them, some of us could be part Neanderthal.
For generations, Homo sapiens and Neanderthals lived near one another. But how close were we? For decades, most assumed interbreeding between our two species didn't happen. But in the early 2000s, this was called into question. With the chance discovery of fossil fragments, which revealed humans with a mysterious mix of features.
It even smells like a fossil. This, I assume, is Oase 1.
This one is the Oase 1.
And that's Oase 2.
That's Oase 2.
This is quite special, because I've read about them. I've studied them. They're hugely significant fossils, but I've never seen the originals. I've never been this close to them.
We excavated for 2 years. We unearthed more than 10,000 fossil remains, mostly cave bear, but also was it too. And it looks, and it is modern Homo sapiens,
Yeah.
but it has some features which are more like Neanderthal,
Yeah.
like this one. It's quite clear it's a mandible of a modern human with this chin.
There's a chin.
The chin, yeah.
And Neanderthals don't have a chin. Neanderthals' chin kind of recedes.
But then you see the size of the molars,
Yeah.
which are really huge.
More a Neanderthal feature.
Modern sapiens,
Yeah.
but with Neanderthal teeth. Yeah, was-it-too has the same hybrid features.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you look at the face.
You look at that and you do think that's Homo sapiens. And then it has these features on it, which are more Neanderthal, like this occipital bun here at the back, that bulge at the back of the skull here.
Yeah, that's kind of strange. It's not a Neanderthal, but it has Neanderthal features, which prompt us to think about some sort of interbreeding. Neanderthal, Homo sapiens interbreeding. It was pretty controversial.
People thought it either didn't happen because we were too genetically distinct.
People were just not ready to accept that. Interbreeding is not something uncommon in biology. It happens with other species. At that time, it was somehow taboo.
Around a decade later came a revolutionary breakthrough. Advances in genetic analysis allowed scientists to extract DNA from ancient fossils, proving these two species could, and did, produce offspring.
Many people still think of the Neanderthals as a simple-minded, thuggish people, but recent, quite often unexpected discoveries are forcing us to confront that perception. Archaeologist Clive Finlayson and his team are convinced that this simplistic impression of Neanderthals is wrong.
We've been working in these caves in Gibraltar now for over 25 years. We have dates in these caves now with Neanderthals as recently as 32,000 years ago. That would make this the last site where Neanderthals lived.
This, the last known refuge of a lost tribe of Neanderthals, has produced thousands of bones and artefacts.
It presents us with almost a total picture of Neanderthal life in this part of the world. Families were living here, sleeping here, and going out to hunt and forage from here. In my view, the stereotype of the ape-like Neanderthal, I think, is changing. People are realizing, even anatomically, that there may be physical differences between our ancestors and them, but they're not as huge as we thought once upon a time. What is really changing our view is the cultural evidence, the evidence of the abilities that we thought only we had and caused our expansion across the globe. And we're beginning to realize that Neanderthals were not that different.
In the past, experts suggested that Neanderthals were incapable of planning, of thinking 2 or 3 steps ahead.
That's not true at all. These people knew their environment very well, they knew what they had here, and they exploited it very well. And that's probably the key to the success and their survival for such a long time.
The Neanderthals were not only an immensely successful European species, but we're starting to realise that they were cultured in a way that we'd thought was the sole preserve of modern humans. The clues are hidden amongst the many bird bones buried in these caves.
More and more we've found that the evidence is in the form of cut marks on the bones, and what we realised was that a lot of the marks were on the wing bones of these birds.
Using stone tools and dead birds found on the shoreline, Clive's team have been exploring what the Neanderthals might have been doing.
If you dissect the wing bone of a vulture or an eagle, what you find is a bone and a tendon and the feathers attached to the skin. There's no meat because you have to be lightweight to be able to saw. So if you're cutting these wing bones in birds of prey, it has to be something to do with feathers and certainly has nothing to do with meat or food. In parallel, we realized that a lot of the species of bird of prey being brought in were birds of prey with dark feathers. And we showed that there seemed to be a discrimination in terms of color. Neanderthals preferred black for some reason. The conclusion that we came to after a lot of analysis is that they were getting the feathers for ornamentation, to wear them in some way. Many cultures across the globe, historically and today, use bird feathers. North American Indians, for example. Because of this close relationship that they had with birds, we decided to call them the bird people of Europe.
Deeper in these caves, the team have found evidence suggesting that these bird people had the capacity for abstract thought, something else which was believed to be exclusive to modern humans.
We have found this incredible engraving on the rock made by Neanderthals, and it's the only one that is known today, anywhere. It took us 2 years of intensive study, and we came to the conclusion that it took them at least 2 hours to do because we replicated the whole procedure. So it wasn't a doodle. They actually thought about it. And it wasn't marks done for butchery, for example, if you're cutting through skin. We tried to replicate that with skin and the lines go all over the place. This was something that wasn't functional. It was sending a message to somebody, and it was done very, very deliberately, and it took a long time.
This is not mere survival. This looks like art.
It's the next step, if you like, the smoking gun in terms of Neanderthal behavior.
So contrary to the popular perception of them, we're now realising that Neanderthals exhibited many aspects of what we call modern human behaviour.
Here is where we found 2,500 Neanderthal bones. We found 13 Neanderthal individuals of different ages and sexes. We have 1 infant, 2, 3 years, 2 juveniles, 8, 10, 3 adolescents, 13, 14, and 7 adults.
And how did you find them?
A caver in 1994 came here and with the light, something was reflecting. And then he took it, and it was a jaw.
Wow.
A human jaw.
Such a diverse group in terms of individuals, all found in one spot.
Genetic studies told us that they are related, so it's a family group. I think we have had a connection with these people because we have tried to understand what they were doing here. We know, for example, that one female, we are not completely sure, genetic information said, was red hair.
And you know, when you say that one of those people had red hair, it suddenly brings are just fossils, really, to life. It's a cave that's filled with ghosts.
We think these people were killed by other group.
This was not a natural death. Cracked skulls and precise cuts on the bones suggest that this was a brutal massacre. 13 people killed by another Neanderthal group. But closer analysis of their remains revealed an even darker truth.
So what do the bones actually tell us?
The first thing the bones tell us is that this Neanderthal group cannibalized another group.
They were really eating these 13 individuals.
Yeah.
So how do we know that this was cannibalism as opposed to just straight up murder, or for that matter, an animal coming?
Well, because we have seen in the bones what we call cut marks. That mean marks that are done by a human. We look like that, and here we have one flake.
So you're looking for something sharp, and now you have it.
Yeah, that's it. Let's see. Then here, then if you move, there are marks in the bone.
Yeah.
And you do it parallel marks.
Yeah. So they're focusing on the areas where there's muscle, where there's meat, effectively.
So if we look at the shape of the rib cage is not as broad or wide or flared out as some of our earlier ancestors. And so what that means is the space in between the pelvis and the diaphragm, where our guts live, seems to be a smaller volume. We have smaller guts.
Which suggests that he was eating better quality food.
The shorter the gut, the better quality of the food.
So meat could be an explanation for that, but there could be another explanation as well, why guts and teeth are getting smaller. It could have been that these guys were cooking their food.
It's controversial because until recently it was thought humans didn't control fire until around 400,000 years ago. But new chemical analysis techniques may have just put a match to all that.
Cooking with fire is a uniquely human behaviour. Today, Homo sapiens are the only species to do it, but that hasn't always been the case. In Williamstown, Massachusetts, Dr. Ann Skinner has been analysing tiny fragments of ancient animal bones that have been burned. They were found at a site used by Homo erectus. And Ann made an extraordinary discovery. Using a technique known as electron spin resonance, she can analyse changes in bone protein. These reveal what temperature the bones were burned at. Natural fires from the time of Homo erectus would have been grass fires that burn at 300 degrees Celsius. But man-made fires, created in a hearth, reach much higher temperatures.
So if I have bones that are heated above 300, and especially above 400 to give us a little leeway here, then I can be sure that they were not heated in a grass fire, and hence they have to have been heated in a fire constructed by hominids.
Anne used her technique to analyse burnt fragments of antelope bones found in Svartkrans cave in South Africa. This was a cave where Homo erectus remains had also been found. Remarkably, she found that the bones had burned at 350 degrees Celsius. Anne believes this shows they must have been burnt in a hearth.
I can show that these bones were burnt in a fire that must have been created and controlled at the cave, and that dates to somewhere between 1 and 1.5 million years, which is older than any other site that has ever been found.
Scientists believe that the only species to have the mental ability to use fire at this time was Homo erectus.
The idea that these entities had the ability to even conceive that they might control their environment, rather than just letting the environment control them. I mean, instead of seeing a burning bush and running in the other direction, to conceptually say, hey, we could use that. Even if we weren't cooking, we could use it to scare away the leopards. We could use it to keep warm. Just thinking that there's something that you could use in your environment takes more effort than you might think.
Anne's findings have rewritten the timeline on Homo erectus's ability to harness fire. Evolutionary biologist Dr. Rachel Carmody has studied the research. She believes that the early use of fire could even have accelerated their development.
This kind of work is really showing us that humans were controlling fire and were possibly using it for things like cooking very early on in human evolution.
Cooked food means a more varied, higher energy diet. This reduces the workload for the gut and leaves calories spare for the rest of the body. A fifth of the calories we consume are used to fuel our brains, and there's a theory that a switch to cooked food is one of the things that encouraged an increase in brain size.
What we see at this point in human evolution is the beginning of a trade-off, where gut size gets smaller, so you save energy by having a smaller gut. But humans seem to have been able to reallocate that saved energy toward fueling a larger brain.
So is there a link between a better diet and growing bigger brains?
I find this really intriguing and slightly unsettling because for me this is evolution turned on its head. Because we're saying that we are saving some energy somewhere, so that means we can grow a bit of ourselves bigger. George, what do you think?
Chimpanzee spends 47% of his time chewing and eating and processing food, whereas humans only spend 4.7. So you've got all this extra time and energy to do something with it. Why not cooking?
Now this is a human walking along, and we can see that we walk with a nice straight leg, and one of the really key bits of anatomy is up here. These are the abductor muscles on the outside of your hip joint, and they stop your hips swinging from side to side as you're walking. Robin, I think that's a chimp over your end, isn't it?
Yep.
Completely different gait, so that's very bent hip, bent knee.
Well, really what you can see in the chimpanzee is the strong flexure of the knee, bringing all of the force of the body down behind the knee and in front of the foot. Now this is actually continually flexing the knee joint, and this is what makes that sort of walking so inefficient.
That looks very inefficient with this sort of rotating hip. It's very hard to do.
Well, one of the reasons is if you stand in this sort of posture, gravity's continuing to flex your knee, and your muscles in front of the thigh work harder and harder and harder to stop you bending more and more, and it becomes very tiring.
It's very tiring, and your knees start to shake.
And yes.
Oh, so it's much more efficient to actually straighten your legs. It's more efficient to stand that way, and it's more efficient to walk this way as well.
Yeah.
And so who's this in the middle then?
That's a Lucy.
So this is how Lucy would have walked.
I would say a little bit more straight leg than that too. I think that's
even more straight.
Even more straight leg than that.
She's
There's
looking.
a slight swing on the hips, isn't there? There's a little.
Yes, you've got basically a broader hip than we would have had.
I think again we have to emphasise the fact that chimpanzees are not our ancestors, and we're using them as a comparison. But it seems that what we've got here in Australopithecus afarensis is something which is almost halfway between a very chimpanzee-like way of walking and a modern human way of walking. Well, looking at the anatomy of Lucy's feet, knees and pelvis, it suggests she's spending lots of time walking on the ground. But some new research has been looking at another bit of her anatomy, her hands, and this may shed some light on how much she was using them for climbing.
It may seem surprising, but the way we use our hands in climbing a tree or gripping a tool is recorded in our wrist bones. Powell Cotton House in southern England is one of the most important primate study centres in the world. Our ancient ancestors spent more time in the trees than we do. But new research conducted here is beginning to shed light on when they decided to trade life in the trees for life on the ground. Paleoanthropologist Professor Gabrielle Macho has been studying the wrist bones of modern chimpanzees and humans and comparing them with wrist bones from Lucy's species, Australopithecus afarensis.
We have been looking at the capitate. It's the biggest bone of the wrist, and it's sitting right in the middle here, and it's along the main load transfer from the middle finger to the upper arm.
Gabrielle has been putting capitate bones into a CT scanner to reveal the internal structure of trabecular bone.
In a little bone like this, you get a very complex arrangement of trabecular bone. And it's no coincidence, it's also called the spongy bone.
Having made CT scans of capitate bones, Gabrielle applied the same computer modelling that aircraft manufacturers use to analyse stress in the wings of aeroplanes. This showed where the spongy bone had been reinforced to cope with the forces applied to them.
The difference between the two bones is quite striking. In the chimpanzee, you see the red loads travel towards the left side, and this is the side where you have your little finger. In modern humans, see it quite nicely, it is traveling towards the thumb side.
So chimps show evidence of reinforcement on the little finger side of this bone, because that is where the loading is greatest when they climb trees. But in humans, who use their thumbs far more, the loading is on the thumb side of the bone. This technique could reveal how much time ancient species spent in the trees. Next, Gabrielle looked at capitates from Australopithecus afarensis, the same species as Lucy. She also analysed capitates from another slightly older species, Australopithecus anamensis. Her findings suggest that a dramatic change was taking place.
The older one, Australopithecus anamensis, behaves more like a chimpanzee. So you have the load transfer towards the little finger, and this is what you expect if you're moving up a tree, if you're climbing, whereas the later Australopithecus afarensis has more of a human-like pattern. So it definitely used its thumb much more regularly than the older specimens, and it is maybe some indications that they have largely abandoned an arboreal lifestyle, so they have come to the ground.